Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups to scaling up, we cover it all. So don't mess up. Monday nights, don't miss the show with Kendell and Stuart. Your time to grow, listen up, take notes and learn. The Big Potato Podcast, next gen's turn. It's next gen's turn.
We are back. We're live for episode number 7, seventh heaven, we'd like to say, on the Big Potato Podcast. That's how we're doing it this week. Thank you so much, you guys, every single person, every single follower, every member of our audience, for always tuning in, linking up, sharing, following, liking our content on the Big Potato Podcast. Yours truly, Kendall, I'm here. My co-host is here as well as usual. Stuart, how things, bro?
Good night, everyone. You know how I do it. How Mark used to say it?
Good as gold.
Good as gold. I think gold is the right term to use tonight.
And in all senses, gold as in G-O-A-L and G-O-L-D.
Yeah. We have a nice conversation set up here tonight. Excited about it. Again, we jump into our next industry.
Industry.
Yeah. We ready onto something with this list of guests that we're bringing on board here. A lot of people. There's a nice cross-section of people being in touch with the information, and that was the goal, and we are accomplishing it.
Perfect. And of course, for you guys who may be listening for the first time on the Big Potato Podcast, remember we empower entrepreneurs for today's business landscape. Light-hearted discussion, delivering strategic business insights in industries, as Stuart said, as entertainment, tech, media. We had all of those last episode. We had a great discussion with DJ Pon. Stuart. Was excellent, right? Talking about the music and entertainment industry. If you missed it, go check it out. And remember to follow on all our social media platforms at the Big Potato Podcast. And YouTube and Spotify, you can catch all of our shorts, full episodes, and all the other content. Share it with someone you know that would need it as well. Great information. But anyway, we're not sticking tonight, because tonight is excitement. Finally, we're touching something here that I wanted to get to from the start. We are going to be jumping into sport. Literally jumping into sport. And our guest tonight is Chester Pierre. I'm calling his name one time because I want to read his bio before I bring him in. So for you guys who may not be familiar with Chester, he's a prominent figure in the sports industry, serves as the CEO of Unveil Group, company that encompasses various entities including Unveil Plus, Unveil Athletes, Unveil Experiences, all of which are recognized for organizing events like Footy Fest, college combines, showcases, you name it. Various events in the sporting industry. Recently, he introduced a new initiative, a great initiative. It's called the Vibe Section, specifically tailored for the national team matches, which has successfully attracted a large number of fans to attend these matches, thereby enhancing the overall fan experience and engagement. Notably, Chester's contributions and achievements have been acknowledged by the Ministry of Youth and National Service in Trinidad and Tobago. And I'd like to congratulate him because he was actually honored as one of the 40 under 40 individuals, which highlights his significant impact and leadership in both sports and business sectors since a young age, transitioning from entertainment ventures to a strong focus on sports. Welcome, Chester. Glad to have you, bro.
Hey, good night, gentlemen. Good night to everyone listening. Thanks for having me once again. I'm really excited about being a part of this podcast. So let keep it moving, let get things started, man.
Let's go. Most importantly, thanks for making the time for us tonight. And we're going to jump straight into what caught our eye. That's how we kick off our show, all courtesy IBOMAQ.
Well, what caught my eye this week was an article from the Guardian newspaper. It was by Brian Lewis, and it was published on the 12th of March, 2024. It's an article titled Sports Leading by Example for Ramadan. I won't go too deeply into the article, but the gist of the matter is it reminded me of back in the day looking at the NBA playoffs and seeing Hakeem Olajuwon, playing in the playoffs, and the commentators talking about the fact that it's Ramadan and he's fasting. So he hasn't eaten since this morning. But this other guy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the same thing. And not just in the basketball, but in the football, the track and field. What caught my eye about it is the fact that these athletes, they have to fast and they have to train. They can't just decide, well, this month, taking off coach. A fasting this month, coach. No, it's the discipline, the tenacity, the sacrifice. All of these elements come together in just this practice of training while you're fasting from dusk to dawn. I have never done it, but I could imagine it's a very difficult thing to do. So my connection between that article and our podcast basically is the fact that these are the same traits that entrepreneurs have to rely on. You have to have the passion to even be able to go through that ordeal. So it's passion. You have to have the tenacity. And again, as I said just now, you have to be able to sacrifice and have discipline to be able to do these things and to be able to still succeed on the track, succeed on the football field. There's no excuses out here. So that's what caught my eye in a nutshell. And I really want to know what Chester's opinion would be on that.
When it comes to Ramadan and fasting with athletes, I think it's something I saw France even spoke about, the France FA, I believe. They wanted to ban some of the athletes from fasting. And I saw it had a bit of controversial responses. And as you mentioned, being an athlete and having to fast and still compete, I take my hats off to those guys because
For sure.
generally, if I am out and about and let's say I miss a breakfast, I miss lunch, and I'm going whole day, I cannot operate where I want to operate. So when I hear these athletes are fasting and still competing at such a high level, I think that's even impressive. Again, I respect them. I respect that they're honoring their religion as well. And as you say, it takes a lot for you to actually be disciplined and continue what you're doing and still compete at that high level. So that catching eye is something that I saw, but it's not something that persons literally speak about. And I think I personally would like to learn more about it and probably speak to athletes who do it to understand how do they go about it, how are they so disciplined in what they're doing and still be able to compete at such a level, energy-wise and so on.
The energy-wise is the problem. The calories, that's the problem. So it's a challenge. I'd love to get the information after you do your research. I'd love to read that report.
For sure, because we see it all the time. Even in the different leagues right now, as you said, Ramadan is being observed, and we kudos to some of the leagues, most of them, in football, basketball, and so on, when they may have matches at times where fasting needs to be broken. They allow the players to do this. They will actually pause the game or the event or whatever in order for this to happen. So, it is a very interesting dynamic. And what's even more interesting in it, as you rightfully said, go back to our episode 1, where we spoke about traits of an entrepreneur. And that actually segues into what caught my eye. Right? I almost reversed the thing there. But what caught my eye is an article on Forbes.com, Why Athletes Can Make Successful Entrepreneurs, written by Mark Moyer. Again, very quick on this. If you're like most athletes, whether in high school, collegiate, amateur, professional, you're often left floundering when leaving your sport, not sure which direction to go in or career to consider. Now, some athletes, they may consider working for a business and using their skills and specific mindset in a company. But of course, most athletes, you see them going in the direction of becoming entrepreneurs. And I mean, this is not by chance, right? Similar to what Stuart said, and even in our episode 1 where we discussed the traits of an entrepreneur. And Chester, I'm sure, and his team at Unveil could talk about this a lot more. You see athletes possessing a unique skill set, which would help them to become great entrepreneurs. And I'll just run through some of them that he mentioned in the article very quickly. Goal-oriented mindset. So they set and work towards specific goals. They're resilient and they have perseverance. Strong work ethic. Right? They usually see athletes, the very successful ones, they're very dedicated. Teamwork and collaboration. Discipline and self-motivation. Ability to perform under pressure. Competitive mindset. Adaptability and agility. Strong leadership skills. And this one in particular doesn't mean you had to be the captain on your team, but you understand the type of leader that you should be and need to be in order to be successful. Transferable network and personal brand. Now, those are a few of the transferable characteristics and skills that caught my eye for athletes looking to get into business, whether during their career or even after. And I would say, you know what my favorite word is, Stuart? Opportunity. Opportunity for athletes present, past, and future. Look at industries and problems that you're most passionate about. Get involved in that. Of course, do your research, analyze the markets, be bold, take brave steps, but always build a proper network and team around you, especially to compensate for the skills that you may be a little lesser in order, or still developing, in order to make sure that your venture is successful. Now, does anything of this resonate with you, Chester?
Yeah, most certainly. I, as you mentioned earlier, I actually speak directly to some of our athletes and even some of my personal friends who are footballers or even track athletes, cricketers, and so on. How important it is to build their brand and build their network as well. It's like you need to understand that you as an athlete, you are a brand and you are a business in itself. Mm-hmm. So take for instance the biggest athletes in the world. You could talk about Usain Bolt, you could talk about Messi. I think most persons don't know, but Usain Bolt made his bulk of money actually being a brand. Right. He would have made about $1 million US in prize money and so on throughout his career, but he has made about 30 million yearly based on endorsements, and that just not only because of his success as an athlete, but because he was able to build a brand, a whole persona, the whole excitement. When you see Usain Bolt, is excitement on the track. So I believe that heavily assisted with him being a brand, and of course now transferring the brand into a business and understanding that, okay, you may not be like what you mentioned earlier, you may not decide to invest your money and go into a particular field or industry and so on, like how we see like doing Bravo, having a studio and going into that entertainment side of things, but you may not just focus on yourself as a brand and say, okay, the endorsements will come and I may have a lifetime deal with Puma, or I may have a lifetime deal with any brand, and be able to now push myself and push their brand and still gain revenue by being yourself, basically, so you are your own business, and it's important to just keep that positive image and of course be a brand and be a business while you're an athlete or anything you're looking at in life.
Fantastic. What's your takeaway on that?
Well, it's nothing to take away, it's just to add some 2 cents, because both of you all covered it very, very well. Both of you all mentioned being networked. And this is something that the athletes, I guess, should realize or would realize already. When you're in the industry, you're in the perfect place to build a network. You're not just on the track, as Chester was saying, you're supposed to be building your brand. So you're supposed to be connecting with the agents, connecting with the brands, the sporting companies, connecting with the
marketers.
But you're supposed to be out there doing that work. So as the athlete, you're already well placed to be well networked, and you're well placed to find the gaps in the industry. So I think it's 2 points just to add to what you said, because you all said it all. You're well placed to identify where the challenges are, where the shortfalls are, where the pains are. You are the athlete. You remember what you did. You remember your experience. You remember where at times you said, well, I wish they had something like this. This would have helped me out. This would have helped my team out. So you go down that direction, create an innovation. You're well placed with the network to get the success, and you're well placed to find the gaps.
For sure. And I mean, just to wrap that up, most times athletes are also pretty well paid for the most part during their career. Make a decent living, especially when you're doing it on a highly professional level. And you could leverage some of that as well in terms of making the right business moves. So I hope that stuck with some athletes who are listening to us tonight. I know a lot of you would listen to this episode because, I mean, we have the Unveil Group with us here tonight, represented by their CEO, Mr. Chester Pierre. We'll be right back. That's what caught your eye, all courtesy IBOMAQ. Whether you're seeking guidance or solutions for your business, we're here to help. Contact us via IBOMAQ868@gmail.com. That's IBOMAQ868@gmail.com. And let's discuss how we can collaborate for your success. All right. And we're back. Online with us tonight, Mr. Chester Pierre. We're talking sport. Not only in Trinidad and Tobago, the region, the world, the globe. And I'm interested to start hearing more about Chester's story tonight because I happen to believe, as one of the young, successful entrepreneurs, him and his team, as he said, one of the representatives, the Ministry of Youth and National Services 40 Under 40 Club. So this guy knows what he's talking about, and I know that his insights are going to inspire other young entrepreneurs or even marketers and moguls out there. So Chester, now is your time to shine, bro. Give us a little bit of a description, a little bit of background on what exactly is the Unveil Group, what you guys do, and also I want you to probably start off in terms of why you decided to get into this form of entrepreneurship.
All right, no problem. Whenever I ask this question, it's something difficult to answer, to be honest, because I always think back on where we started, what was the concept, and what we were trying to achieve, and then I look at where we are now and be like, I wouldn't say we diverted, but I'll say that the ideas expanded so greatly to the first set of ideas, and it wasn't easy, and it still isn't easy, but let me just see how quick I could break this down. So firstly, we changed the Unveil Group, I believe in 2020 or 2021, we transitioned to Unveil Group. Our first venture was called Unveil Magazine, for those who are the real loyal followers and real Unveil fans.
Yes.
Our first venture was Unveil Magazine. That was started in, I believe, in 2014. Yeah, 2014. We actually had a magazine and a literal physical publication that used to be distributed in secondary schools and so on. The idea came to me probably in 2013 or 2012. I remember meeting with one of the presidents in the SFL Football League, Mr. Creed, and I spoke with him and told him I have this idea of having a magazine because while I was attending university, you're still trying to be connected to your secondary school. So yep. CIC might be playing QRC, Fatima might be playing St. Anthony's, and so on and so forth, Naps and Perez. Benedict's playing, well, back then it's just zone, so every team playing in the zone, so it wasn't a Premier League like where we have St. Augustine playing, St. Anthony's now and so on. So right. You always kind of focus on wondering, okay, how this team did today and so on. I know us in Trinidad and Tobago and us in the Caribbean as well, in terms of data collection and news coming out at a fast pace, we don't really have that all the time, so that is the why for the Unveil in that aspect. That was the why. Right. So while in university, I started penning this idea, this magazine. I had about 15 persons involved. I remember just calling those who I knew directly, persons for photography, videography, graphic designers, writers, those who are now getting into Newsday, those who are now getting into like writing for
Journalism.
local companies, you know. So they were still young in the business and so on. And I just remember reaching out to those guys and having like normal phone calls. Those days was like BBM days, yeah. So just sending BBMs and having discussions about, hey, I have this plan for a magazine and so on. So eventually magazine came into play. We made the dream a reality. We launched a Facebook. We launched I don't think Instagram was big then, and also I think it was just Facebook. Facebook was really Trinidad and Tobago thing then. So we launched a Facebook. We launched a Twitter, because the Twitter was for our live updates of the scores and so on. And we started reaching out into schools. We started doing articles about the games and getting little 21 questions with some of the star players. So there's a guy right now that does photography and videography called Nicholas Walker. He does a lot of animal stuff and so on in Trinidad and Tobago.
That's Snake Man.
The Snake Man. And he was one of the guys that was actually one of the first persons in our magazine, because at that point, I remember he was coming out of secondary school. University, and he had just signed with Dallas FC, so it was something big. And it was real big to actually get a interview with him, being one of the few local persons getting an MLS contract and so on. So he was there in the publication. We were able to distribute this throughout the schools and so on. So that is the start of Unveil Group as we know it today. It started with Unveil Magazine. And while right before 2020, before COVID-19, we started making plans to change the name Unveil Magazine, because I told my team, I said, hey, we don't really do any physical publication anymore, because it started to get expensive, and sometimes you'll see it outside. It'll be whether it's in a transit location, whether in a mall and so on, and it's like, okay, persons will literally read it for 10 minutes and then they get passed on to a friend, they can leave it. I said, let us just go straight digital website and do everything online. And with that transition now, if persons know me and I will have an idea and I'll sit down on it for months, and then I'll reach out to the team and say, what you guys think about this? And we all have this rapport and we just communicate and say, okay, this is what we think. And I had to shout some names of renaming Unveil Magazine. And one of the names that was selected was Unveil Plus, because it was like, it's no longer magazine, it's Unveil Plus, as in Unveil and more. So that is where the Plus actually came in, and we kind of moved away from the Unveil Magazine name and we moved to the Unveil Plus. And just transitioning and moving into the other elements of Unveil one time as well. During that period, we were expanding, because not only we were in Trinidad and Tobago, but we were existing in Jamaica at that time as well, with schoolboy football and so on. And while actually doing Unveil Magazine, a lot of coaches would reach out to us and ask about like star players, show the Caribbean and so on. And that is actually where we started building our player highlights and building our building the information for coaches in the US, because we didn't even know them personally at the time. They were just reaching out based on us publicating something about a local athlete or a Caribbean athlete, and they would say, hey, who's this guy? Like, if Kendell scored a goal today and we posted the video, they would say, hey, who is Kendell and so on. And we started reaching out to Kendell and having a conversation with him and again to know him and starting to build player highlights. And with that, now the idea came about for having an athlete management platform. And everything we do is basically under Unveil. So it just became Unveil Athletes. And my now CEO for Unveil Athletes is a guy called Jonathan Chang. He had reached out to me previously as well, because he was hosting an event, if I remember correctly, in 2018 or 2017, and he had reached out for some assistance to get some players on board. And after that particular event, we actually had a meeting, and we liked how we mesh and how we got things going. In that idea, we have all the players and they wanted to combine, and I tell them, okay, well, we have some relation with coaches, relation with coaches as well, and we actually started talking about it, and the whole Unveil Athletes came into fruition basically, where I now had somebody that I know I can lead Unveil Athletes, because further into the conversation, you'll see that I may be the face of a lot of things, but I'm not the one that spearhead. I will have the idea and I will look for a person that can literally sit down and carry it further. And we had discussions, because a lot of things we actually work on. So that way Unveil Athletes came about, and we then moved into event management. So prior to what we have now called Footy Fest, we had an event called Unveil All-Star Weekend. We started this in 2014 as well, I think, after all the seasons after all the football season played, we actually had an event called Unveil All-Star Weekend. It was a 2-day event back then. And I just wanted to move away from the name Unveil for this particular reason, because there was a time when I was getting, I wouldn't say annoyed, but I was getting frustrated that every time we do something, I would be like, this is Unveil. I was like, no, I say, I want to separate it, because everybody think Unveil is this event touring company. So
Right.
they'll just see an event and it's like Unveil. Like, no, Unveil has different platforms. We have Unveil Athletes, we have Unveil Magazine then, and we have Unveil Experience. So we know now to host stuff like Putty Fest and so on. So back then it was Unveil All-Star Weekend, and we changed the name from Unveil All-Star Weekend to Putty Fest, because, as I said, when I was sitting on an idea and I just think about what I want to do, what we want to do, I reached out to the team, and then we started to build this vision together. And I was like, listen, I want to have a football festival, basically. I want it to be football whole day, but I want it to be enjoyable. So it must have entertainment, it must have food, it must have drinks, non-alcoholic drinks, of course.
Of course.
The snacks, the ice creams, the popcorn, and so on. And yeah, so that way Putty Fest actually came about. So just trying to touch base on a lot of these things as quickly as possible, because I know we have a lot of things to talk about. And that's basically where we build the whole Unveil Group, and apart from those 3 platforms I mentioned, the Unveil Plus, the Unveil Athletes, the Unveil Experience, known for hosting events as well, we have other platforms that we are still releasing. And it's just really for us to show it to the public. We literally have everything done set out, and day by day you'll see something that's released and you say, this is another Unveil platform. But we literally just build things around throughout the Caribbean, and I think that that's the best I could really explain the story in the shortest possible time.
We appreciate it, bro, and we congratulate you as well.
Yes,
on all the expansion, innovation, and diversification.
Well, what I want to touch on, based on what you just said there about building your platform, this may be kind of conversation all the way back to the beginning, but remember, this podcast is about the entrepreneurship, it's for the Gen Zs, and giving them the advantage, the step up. So my question is really about the choice of vehicle you choose when operating in the sports industry. Most people will register a limited liability company. Looking back, do you think that is the best choice for a sporting vehicle, or an NGO, non-profit, might be the best option for someone coming up who wants to do something in sports? Just off the get-go, what sort of vehicle you would advise them to use?
That actually depends, right? So I'm glad you actually brought this point up, because we actually have an NGO called Unveil Foundation, and that's one of the platforms that are going to be launching soon. That we basically, that is our giving back platform. So, and this for us is something kind of athlete based, in terms of, throughout the season, athletes will probably reach out and ask for, little sponsors of football boots, and those who don't have and they still want to participate, we will try to make it happen based on this particular entity that we are looking to launch here. But regarding the sporting industry or opening a company, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're business oriented and it's something where you're looking to make it a living, profitable, I will say open a limited liability company. I will, as I always tell my team, especially for events, I say everything that we are doing, make sure that you can do your checks and balances, make sure you can do your profit and loss statements, and everything that we do, we always see what we need in terms of budgetary needs, and see where you'll need to get money from, and so on. In the sports industry in Trinidad, I would say sponsors usually gravitate to the NGOs. But again, when you're starting up, one of my favorite saying is that you really can't get blood from a stone, right? When you're starting up, you may have $0. So being an NGO and trying to give back, you can't give if you don't have. So I will always tell people, try to have and then give, because if you give and you don't have, it come as you yourself will be begging to receive. So my advice would be probably doing a limited liability based on what you want to do in business, or what you want to do with your company, and then transition what we're doing here to having a foundation will be an NGO, where we are now able to give back to the society. Once we receive, we could be able to give back.
I think that's some great advice.
A fantastic point. I love it. And I mean, you're quite right. But why do you think a lot of sponsors gravitate assisting the NGOs more? I mean, that might sound like an obvious question, but from your perspective in sport, I know that there are grants and so on when companies help NGOs, especially in sport and arena and industry. But is there something additional?
Um, I will speak based on my experience. I can't really talk from the company's experience to why I don't make those choices at the moment.
Right.
On our side, well, you just touch on sponsors, because
Mhm.
I know there's a topic of discussion
Of
in the
course, let me go
sports
one time.
industry. In the sports industry, whether it's in Trinidad and Tobago or whether it's throughout the Caribbean, um, attaining a sponsor is very difficult. Especially I will say in Trinidad and Tobago, because I think we have better luck outside getting sponsors. We are in a society that love party, we love entertainment, and that's our culture. So sponsors budgets are usually for entertainment and carnival and anything that if you want a fete, if you want to throw an event with a big artist, you you will get a sponsor. But if you want to throw a sporting event, hardly likely the sponsor will jump on, because I think they don't see the ROIs on a sporting event as they probably will see in terms of an entertainment event. And regarding sponsors given money or given any kind of grants to NGO, I think it's usually for them seeing a company giving back, or possibly the format of a company doing something positive or good to a community or to a particular industry. I think they want to be a part of that, compared to, let's say, a company hosts the event where they probably don't think that it's something that will be seen as a give back, but more so that the company is probably trying to make money by hosting events. So that's basically my take on why a sponsor might probably choose an NGO over, let's say, a limited liability company hosting an event that they probably don't know too well, and so on and so forth.
But
Fantastic, and thanks for that feedback.
I think it's something definitely the next generation that want to open their iteration of this sort of company. I think it's something they definitely should think about.
Sure, it is something that you have to do as an entrepreneur, right? Understand which business vehicle will work for you best. Now, I wanted to segue into something here that you mentioned as well when you were talking about the Unveil Group, which is putting together your team. What are the aspects that you look for as a CEO in terms of putting together your team? Of course, you have great ideas, you understand, you clearly have a lot of vision to pioneer stuff. So, what are the traits and the characteristics that you look for when adding somebody to your team in order to drive your business forward? What is the vision? What must they have?
Um, as a CEO, as an owner, this might probably sound weird for a lot of people, but I love people to challenge me. Like, I must come to you with an idea, and the first thing must never come out of your mouth is yes, I like it, because I like the idea. It's my idea, so I am expected to like it, but I don't want to ever come to my team and they like my idea out the back, because I feel as though I don't want to have yes persons around me, because I feel as though once you have yes people around you, you're not really able to move forward and elevate certain things you're doing. So a lot of times I probably have an idea, or even my other teammates have ideas, and sometimes person don't like it, and that in this case will make the idea even better. How many ideas I brought to my team and they just shut it down, and and I say no problem. I say I'll come back, I'll rethink it, and we will
Come back
see
with
if,
it.
and see everything, and then somebody will come back and they still don't like it, and we move forward. We change that. So for me, when looking for persons on the team, is really people that one visionary. We don't ever like person to just come and just sit down. We need you to carry your own weight, because a lot of times when we're looking for additions, it's like we know we want persons to be adding value to the team. Basically, you cannot just come to the team and just expect and just want us to give you something to do. I always tell persons every day, if you have an idea, come to us, bring it forward, and if you feel comfortable about doing the idea on your own and you want us to support you, we are here for you. So for me, for having a addition to the team, you must be a visionary, you must be creative, and you must be able to challenge the people who's supposedly above you. If you don't like my idea, come out one time and say, yo, no, I don't like this idea. But just don't say don't like the idea, come out and suggest a better idea, or come out and suggest how to make something better. So those are the simplest things for me. And of course, being a sports lover, being dedicated, because entrepreneurship is not something you can just start and put on and then expect to be successful. You need to always be focused. You need to always set goals. You need to have milestones and continuously push yourself. So for me, those are the things I look at when adding a team member, especially somebody who are looking forward to lead a platform on my behalf or on the company's behalf.
Well, a lot of people say that, but it takes a mature leader, such as yourself, to really take that negative feedback. I wouldn't say negative, that critical feedback. Because a lot of people say they don't want yes men around them, but from the time someone objects, you know where the door is.
Yeah, that's very true. But for me, I just like to hear people say no, because I like to challenge myself. So let's say I come to Kendell with the idea and Kendell don't like it. I'm going to ask him why you don't like it. I'm going to say, list 10 things, what you don't like about it, and probably list 5 things what I like about it. And then I will try to create something that will assist now when I come back to your idea to show how I could make those 10 things that you know list that I don't like about it, make something that you like about it, and probably move forward. If you don't like it again, then we shut it down totally and say, right, cool, let you work on something else.
Well, let me ask you something about what you mentioned earlier. So let's really get into the sports talk a little bit, at least for this question. How does an athlete determine their value? For instance, how do you say, okay, sponsor approaches you, they say they want to give you $100 for your likeness on some billboard. How do you know if your value is $100? How do you know your value is really say $10,000 or $100,000 or $1 million? How does an athlete determine their value?
Well, for me, and well, this will be so. This is our next cliche thing I always tell people: you have to believe in yourself. That's the first thing. You have to believe in yourself, and then the second part of it is that determining value, subjective, and it all based on I will say your economic status in the moment. So, for instance, an athlete who probably now starting off, they may believe them in themselves, but monetary needs are always there. So, for instance, a company offering him $100 and he probably value himself at $1,000. He may probably say, "I'll take the 100 because I actually need the $100 now." So I think at a certain point in your life, when your career is when you probably change the value that you see in yourself and the value that you put out. So I will always tell persons every situation is different. So for instance, if a company we are hosting an event and we send a proposal, the proposals will usually be based on the value of our event and of course the value of the budget. If we are asking for $10,000 and a sponsor decide that they are giving us $2,000, 5 out of 10 times we will probably say no to the sponsor, not because we are trying to reach, we are not because we are just only trying to get our budgetary needs assisted, but we also put in value on our brand and on our event. So if other sponsors are jumping on board for that figure, we have to respect the other sponsors that are working with us to say, okay, if this particular sponsor is giving us 10,000, then this other sponsor cannot come for 2,000 and get the same value
benefit.
So for us now, we may allow the sponsor to come with 2,000, but he may not get the same showing. And as an athlete now, I think that's something that they could probably work on. They could probably do something similar, where you may value yourself at 10,000 and a sponsor probably offer you $100 or let's say 1,000, and you now have to see whether it's worth aligning yourself with a particular brand and whether that 1,000 or that $100 is going to do anything to your life to make you even catapult further into life. So it's all about really assessing where you are in life and then assessing the brands that are approaching you and seeing whether, as persons will say, seeing whether the opportunity will make you be seen as a big athlete. So for instance, a big brand come and approach you and they're willing to give you less than a small brand. Public eye is going to see this big brand and you alignment, but they are giving you less money than a small brand. But because this big brand is aligned in the public eye as the biggest thing ever,
right?
The sponsor's not going to jump on, but I'm give you the value that you want for yourself based on just aligning yourself with a particular brand. So I guess it's just assessing certain things and seeing where you are in your career, and probably assessing the brands that are approaching you and seeing how you could probably benefit by accepting less and then looking for more opportunities with other brands. A lot of times persons will make decisions based on their needs. So and that come like if somebody is selling a vehicle, you may have a Benz, and the Benz may cost $200,000, and you may need $100,000, and somebody, you are unable to sell a $200,000 Benz for $200,000, and somebody come to you and say, hey, Stuart or Kendell, I can give you $105,000, and you now know that you need $100,000 today. You will sell the Benz because you need $100,000. You want $200,000, but you need $100,000. So given your circumstances, you will probably drop the value because you need something more than what you really value at that particular moment. So I guess every situation will be different, but they will just assess what's taking place in their life, and then they will make their own decisions based on that.
The value will be fluid.
Very fluid. And I'm glad that you guys are having this conversation, because before we take this break, I wanted to find out from Chester. You mentioned supporting athletes. You mentioned even helping them in their careers, their professional growth and success. And you spoke a little bit about how they should value themselves there. But in terms of particularly navigating some of the challenges that are unique in this region, what does Chester and his team at Unveil Group, and I guess this one would fall under the Unveil Athlete umbrella, how do you all help athletes really develop and nurture them to get to to even this stage for brands to recognize them and for them to develop in their professional careers?
I gave you a little sneak peek here of one of the platforms launching very soon. I'll just touch on Unveil Athletes. Unveil Athletes really dedicated to exposing all the upcoming athletes in the Caribbean, giving them opportunities, scholarship opportunities, and professional opportunities where possible as well. And these opportunities are not easy. So let me just don't say give them opportunities, because these opportunities are not guaranteed. Once you have a certain skill set, you will most likely be able to attain a scholarship based on a coach seeing you and having the budget to take you to a particular college and so on. If you are playing professional football and our relations with some of the scouts and so on, and we could send some of the videos, then you may be able to be seen by other teams, and they will probably call you for a trial and so on. So that's where we are in terms of assisting athletes push out further in their life.
Right.
Regarding their brand, now we're looking to launch something, and it's something that we had in the pipeline for a couple of years actually, because in 2021 we did some work with some regional teams in terms of social media and branding and so on. And this is where we want to take the athletes as well. We want to grow the athletes on the social media platform, or grow their network worth by growing a network. Some of the athletes, they have plenty following on social media, and I think a lot of those persons who understand their brand is exactly what I was saying earlier.
Exactly.
You are your brand. You are a business person. You are an entrepreneur as an athlete, whether a footballer, a cyclist, a basketballer. And what we want to do now is literally take your brand and be able to showcase to some of the sponsors and some of the brands, because if you notice, we will just say in Trinidad and Tobago. In Trinidad and Tobago, a lot of the time you see ads from different brands, and there are literally no sports figures in these ads. And that's because that's an untapped market. A lot of times you see normal social media influencers and so on. Of course, entertainers will have contracts and so on. But once you're able to be a successful athlete, there are many successful athletes coming out of Trinidad and Tobago. We could talk about Levi Garcia playing out in Greece. You could talk about some of the players in MLS like Tyrese Spicer in Toronto FC right now. Who else? You could talk about Sheldon Batu, I believe he's in Belgium right now, and so on. A lot of athletes we have wrong that are excelling as a Caribbean athlete that can be utilized by brands. So I think when we launch this platform, we'll be able to facilitate these athletes and then merge the athletes with the local or regional brands, and then you'll really understand where the conversation coming from in terms of that brand identity, that owning your brand, being your own entrepreneur, and of course now building your brand and engaging to be able to make revenue, just not as a footballer or a sportsman, but now make revenue as a brand. So that's how I see it moving forward.
I think that's very important along the lines of personal branding as well. And fantastic, because Chester, what I like about that as well, and message to all entrepreneurs out there, as you listen to Chester speak, you're hearing him talking about untapped markets, untapped opportunities, things that are lurking just in the dark, but are opportunities or even problems to solve. And as entrepreneurs, that is what we are here for. And on that note, we take a short break. On the Go TT, expanding convenience. Virtual shopping mall available on iOS and Android. Download and shop for electronics, books, hardware items, and much more.
Yes, we're back with Chester here. I just wanted to find out from you, Chester, because we love to discuss trends on this program. Industry trends, where the market going, where the industry going. So what I want to find out is about the move from what my perception is. Everyone's on the couch playing with the tablet, playing with some device. When I drive around Trinidad, the basketball court's empty. Rarely you will see a little small goal sweat going on. The savannah is full. By St. Clair, the basketball court is, well utilized. But to me, growing up back in, let's say, the 90s or so, when you're driving past every single basketball court packed, every single football field, that people waiting with a side to come on,
Side outside.
Side out, so how is that trend affecting the number of athletes that you see interested in having a career, a professional career?
Well, as you say, e-gaming and so on. I was made aware about 2 years ago that we actually have an e-gaming national team.
Yes,
Tobago.
we do.
So I think all it's affecting the outside play. Trends are something I tell persons don't ignore. So if you're seeing a trend happening, you need to align yourself with the trend. So if you're seeing more persons staying inside and playing games, if we could have an industry, e-gaming industry where those persons benefit in the industry and being able to represent the national team in e-games, that's something I will obviously support. But on the other side of things, in terms of how it affecting the numbers, I had a discussion back for the secondary school football league earlier this year, and it's what some of the coaches or some of the persons involved were saying is that they actually see fewer numbers coming out of training and so on as the age groups go up. Back in days you have 100 persons coming and training and bringing a team, but now they literally have less persons participating and so on in football or different sports. So I know they will see a decrease in these numbers, but at the same time you'll have those who will play the e-games and those who will actually play football. So I will still say support both of them, and of course watch and see where the difference is, and then see where it could benefit. And of course, as anything goes in life, you need to promote. So if you want to get more persons outside on the field, you need to promote and show them the benefit of playing outside. You need to show them how a professional player can make a living. And it goes similar with the game. You need to promote that as well. You need to promote it and say this is the opportunities that you can get from playing e-games and so on. We see streaming blowing up and how much money and millions persons again from streaming, So that is, as I mentioned, there's a next untapped market that we need to really look at in the Caribbean.
So that'll be part of Unveil Plus, the e-gaming section.
Plus.
Yeah, that's something we've been looking at, but we haven't really tapped into it, but we'll be looking at it currently.
And I'm sure you guys will do well because, everything you do seems to be very innovative. Very, very innovative. And when you talk about athletes, whether out on the field in the traditional sense or e-gamer in the more modern sense, what do you guys look for in an athlete to invest in? Now, we know the obvious answer a lot of people off the surface would look at is, how good are they? How talented are they? But is this in terms of your management services and your guidance and mentorship services for athletes the only thing you look at?
No, certainly not. And I wish I had other team members with me here, because when it comes to athletes and we have discussions on this. I always go back to, as I say, those involved in Unveil athletes and so on. From Jonathan Chang to Jonathan Cruikshank, and we have a few guys outside in Jamaica and Barbados and so on. Ronaldo jokes and all these other guys. I always lean to hear what they are saying because they, unlike me, they constantly playing football or playing a sport, and
Right.
they will come to me and ask certain questions. And for me, I don't always look at the skill of a player because you can be how skillful, you need to also be dedicated. And as we see a lot of the time let's focus on Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of the time in Trinidad and Tobago, we have skillful players, but the dedication isn't there because they will be as good as you tell them they are good. So once he has a crowd and a person saying, yeah, this player could well play, this player could well do this, but he isn't making a national team. And then you start to see his performance kind of dwindle. And that's where I find the dedication important, the passion important, and the believing in yourself. Because you as an athlete, similar to me as an entrepreneur, not every day going to be a good day for me. But you have to understand as an athlete as well, not every day going to be a good day for you. A coach may not like you, a coach may not like your playing style, but that doesn't mean that you're not good. But this shouldn't really bring you down and make you not feel to compete and so on. You should now have it in yourself that you're a winner and you continue with the dedication to train, to work harder, to be better than anybody else around you. So for me, yes, skills is obviously important, but you see that mindset, you see that winning mindset, that knowing that I may not be this person's favorite, or I may not be this player that this coach is looking at, but I am still good and I am going to work as hard as I could work to be better and be selected by other coaches. That is what I think makes the winner in an athlete.
Great. And I mean, what I'm hearing there is dedication, tenacity, passion. And passion, Chester, this one is for you personally. How important or how does it feel to be able to work in an industry that you're passionate about? I mean, I guess that's the dream for everybody, right? To be able to do what they love. How does it feel?
Some days it feels great. Some days it feel like why I choose this industry, why? But as I just said just now, you need to have it, and you need to have that winner instinct in you that knowing today's a bad day, but it doesn't mean it's a bad life. So basically, every day wouldn't be glorious, but you have to know that you want something. You have to know that you want to achieve something, and again, put on your milestones. Believe in something, have a vision, and just continue working towards something. If plan A don't work, go to plan B. If plan B don't work, go to plan C. And again, it's important, as I mentioned earlier, to have a team around you that they can kind of rely on. So most times when I reach out to persons, this is not even my team for Unveil. I have some close persons I always reach out to, that I will have conversations with, and sometimes they aren't even sports persons, because anything I do in regarding sports, I always talk to the non-sports people, and that's actually how the vibe section came about.
Right.
I always talk to those persons because they are not interested in sports. So I need to find out why you're not interested, and how I could do something that will make you interested. So if I know you're interested far less for a sports person, how that person going, and because you're already interested in sports, so that's how I look at things. And for the industry, I tell you, just the passion. You need to have that burning passion. You know that today, as I mentioned, is a bad day, but not a bad life. And if something fails, continue, do something different and change and pick up, and yeah, you'll get where you need to go.
Pivot.
Well, that kind of leads to my question, because as Kendell asked, well, he stated, everyone's dream is to do what they love. So, okay, we're talking sports. Let me throw some unnecessary banter into this.
Oh gosh.
Some unnecessary banter. Now, I am the greatest basketball player ever out of Trinidad, right? No, literally, right? But basketball might have been the wrong sport choice for me operating in Trinidad. So, based on your experience, your knowledge, what disciplines would you guide the youth into? Would you see the probability of a successful outcome being higher in cricket, in track and field, or badminton, or even the E-games, right? What do you think?
I was just as an off-the-record question. It all depends, So, for instance, regarding cricket, we have some of the top cricketers in the world. Well, yeah, we have some of the top cricketers in the world, from the Karen Pollard to the Dwayne Bravo, Sunil Larang, and this just Trinidad and Tobago. then we talk about Brian Lara back in the days. And then you talk about men like Chandler Paul and so on, and even Chris Gayle, Jamaica. So in cricket, we have made our mark tremendously. And this is throughout the Caribbean. In track and field, the Jamaicans are the ones who persons look at, from the Usain Bolt, Johan Blake, Veronica Campbell, and so on. When it comes to football now, we look at the Dwight Yorks. Now we have the Leon Bailey in Jamaica. Back in the days, Jamaica, the Leon Burton, and so on. So you kind of have to see where or what making sense in the current era. As an athlete or as a parent, probably pushing your child into a sport. Me personally, in this current time, if let's say my child was probably 10 years old, if I had a child, he was 10 or she's 10, I might have put her in cricket, put him or her in cricket currently, because I think cricket is growing in the Caribbean, or let's not say growing in the Caribbean, because of competition like CPL. I think they have more opportunities in the Caribbean as well as opportunities outside compared to other sports. So, for instance, football is the biggest sport in the world, but we don't have a huge revenue earning league in the Caribbean. And of course, we have to focus on the Caribbean because this is your grassroots. This is where you're going to start. You're not going to be a Caribbean player and start playing in Brazil or start playing in Germany. You literally start at home, whether it's in Trinidad and Tobago, whether in Barbados, and so on. So
Exactly.
Until I see that huge opportunity in the Caribbean where you speak to a professional player in the Caribbean and their wages or are on par with those, I wouldn't say those at an international level like the Premier League in England or La Liga or anything, because all those things come back to revenue and fan base and all these kind of things. But at least when they reach a certain level of financial freedom or being able to receive a certain payment for their sport, then I would say I'll go for football or track and field within the Caribbean. But if I'm going to pick an athlete and say, okay, go for a sport that could be beneficial while you're in the Caribbean, I might pick cricket, to be honest. Cricket might be the sport.
Perfect. I was thinking along those lines as well, because there have a lot, as I said, a lot of opportunities in cricket.
Yeah, well, I'm glad the question didn't catch him off guard.
Nice pun.
A little curiosity humor with these CIC guys here. But just before you go, I wanted to find out something, because you mentioned CPL just now. And as a marketer yourself and someone who understands, the power of branding and so on, you talked a lot about that tonight. What do you think we need to do more of? What would make it more attractive for the international sponsors? Because I think at this stage, we've realized what is happening with the local and regional sponsors. They will only get us so far. But in terms to have a brand and a platform similar to CPL in the cricket arena, but now in the football arena, in the track and field arena, and you guys are doing a great job with things like the Footy Fest and so on. But what would make it more attractive to really get the sponsors to get on board? And as I said, not only the local and regional sponsors, but the international sponsors to come in and say, hey, we're dropping a bag of money on this thing. This is what we want, based on your experience.
This similar to what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Mm-hmm. And whenever persons ask about sponsorship and so on, I understand some of the sponsors' views in terms of probably staying away from some of the sporting engagements we have locally or regionally. But for me, I think sponsors will believe in a product or believe in something similar to how we had the vibe section. So let me touch on the vibe section quick. When we started the vibe section, this was literally something that started like 36 hours for us to actually do our first event. I got a call for us to engage with the national team and get more fans outside. And I was like, probably we'll promote it. And then I called back and I was like, listen, it don't just make sense for us to promote it, because I cannot guarantee you that when I tell my team, okay, let's push out this artwork on Unveil Plus or whatever, X amount of eyes going to see it. I cannot guarantee you that X amount of person going to purchase a ticket based on that post. So I told them we will want to get more involved, and we will literally build a section and make it interactive. And now we literally going and be marketing and promoting it and going to door to door. Kendell, we want you to come to Trinidad Tobago football match. Stuart, we want you to come to here. Here's why. This is what we bring in. This is the thing. This is the vibes, whatever. And this similar to any other event or any other thing that you want to do in the Caribbean or in Trinidad Tobago. I think sponsors will jump on board when they see the fans. The fans have to be the first people, unfortunately, fill in the stadium or fill in whichever arena, whether it's a basketball court, whether it's the Oval, whether it's the stadium, football stadium. They need to be there supporting what is taking place, and then sponsors going and wherever fans are or wherever people are in large crowds, sponsors want to engage. A sponsor not going to come to an empty stadium because obviously they're looking for the ROIs. They want to know what they're getting in return. If they come to the stadium with 5 persons, they're not seeing that they are spending 5,000 or 10,000. Those 5 persons will be worth it to them. But if they come to a stadium and have 10,000 persons supporting, let's say, a Premier League football match or whatever it is, they will be more willing to be a part. Mm-hmm. And then you start at home, because if you can't get the sponsors at home, more than likely you will not get the sponsors away, because now we talk about the bigger brands who are accustomed seeing stadiums filled. So, yeah, just for instance, Jamaica. I saw a picture on Unveil Plus earlier this morning with Jamaica Champs, and they probably had like 20,000 persons in their stadium, and they have some of the international brands in being sponsoring Champs, as well as their local brands and regional brands and so on. And if we could have those things for sports, the fans coming out to support the athletes, I can guarantee you that the sponsors going to jump on board and support it, because as we know with anything, once you start in something, you get no support. But once it is big, you'll get 1,000 supporters.
Everybody wants to jump
on board, and they love this. They want to be a part of the thing. It all starts with the fans. Unfortunately, it really starts with the fans. If the fans fill the stadium, you're going to see the sponsors coming on board. Regarding the playing of the athletes or how well they do, it's based on the day basically. We can't tell you how well our athletes going to do based on how full the stadium is, but we could only say that the 12th man is very powerful to the mindset of those playing on the field.
Well said. A quality production is indeed what is needed.
I just want to wrap up with why sponsors, and I don't like to use the word sponsors, why brand partners should entertain and join forces and support Unveil. There's another article I saw. It was difficult to choose between which article caught my eye for the earlier section, but it was speaking to happiness and its relationship to sports and vice versa. So, to me, the first time a child ego could be broken, in many cases, not all cases, when they don't get selected for the team. That not being good enough on the football field. But there are some children who always been selected for the team, always been good at sports, and they seem to have a bigger, not ego, but
sense of self.
Happiness about them, a sense of self-confidence. So I view it as sports having an integral part in the, mental health is a big issue right now. But in terms of the mental health of the youth, taking them off for the social media a little bit, burn a sweat, get the heart pumping, get adrenaline pumping, So from your perspective operating in the field, have you really seen the transformative power of sports? Because this again is tied to why brand partners should pair with you.
I'm trying to see which angle to touch on this question here. The transforming power of sport, I will say certainly, and I will touch on like the bigger athletes, because we could only talk about what we see before our eyes. When you in the Caribbean, when you look at stories like Usain Bolt, and I watched his documentary a couple of years ago, and you see where he came from and see what he achieved throughout his years. I think that right there is a transforming story. That is something inspirational, and all athletes who probably going through something and probably moving up in their career, they should always look at athletes that they could relate to. And with that now, brands themselves, those type of stories is what I think brands should be aligning themselves to. So, for instance, we have the cyclist Nicholas Paul. A lot of people probably don't know he's the world record holder Imagine you are a cyclist. I think he's like 23 or 24 years old, and you're a world record holder in your field, and you're from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm seeing some brands align themselves with him, but something like that is what brand will align themselves with. But as I said earlier, hardly you see brands coming to an athlete when they are now starting, when they are now in the growing phase or trying to make something of themselves. It's only when they really get recognized is when you really see when you really see brands attaching themselves to athletes. So based on the story, I say yes, I have seen sports transform lives. We see it with any of the successful athletes, even in Trinidad, from the Brian Laras to the Karen Pollard to the Dwayne Bravo. They themselves will tell you their own stories, where they came from and how sports benefited them. And I think those are the stories that brands will be attracted to. But again, nobody have a crystal ball to say Kendell going to be a big star. So it's really kind of hard for a brand to just align themselves, unfortunately, with any and everybody until they really get big. So I kind of understand where they come from most of the times. But it's like I wish that they were more willing to take a risk with some of the upcoming athletes.
So at least to engage with the development and in the developmental stages. So Chester, I really want to thank you for joining us tonight. I mean, we could go on and on. It's sports we're talking about. We really didn't even get down into the nitties and the gritties. But before you leave, give us with some words of inspiration for the next generation of athletes and entrepreneurs out there based on your experience, your understanding, and of course, everything that you and your team have very, very brilliantly done in the past few years.
Yeah, but I think I really have to come back because I think we barely even touched the surface of
we need extra time.
We probably had for like 3 hours to really
For sure.
get in what we are doing. But some words of inspiration for the athletes and of course the young entrepreneurs. Don't give up. Well, actually, let me don't say this. Don't give up on things that you believe in, but don't just believe in something. Because not all things are meant to believe in. Because sometimes you can be believing in something that's failing. You need to know when to know when something isn't working, and that's why I said I like when I have a team around me and they're telling me no, regarding certain things, because you can be very strong-minded into something that isn't going to work for you. So always be mindful of every situation in your life. Try to assess things as quickly as possible, whether it's daily, whether it's weekly, whether it's monthly. So don't plan something and say, okay, you have a 5-year goal. I am not one to have 5-year goals and 10-year goals. I have monthly goals, because I think if I plan a 5-year goal, the 5-year goal will be something huge like Unveil in, like we say, Canada. But between year 0 and year 5, you need to have these small milestones that you're working towards that 5-year goal. So for me, I'll tell them have very small goals, and those small goals are the ones that are going to build to your big goal. Always do your weekly and daily assess, and of course monthly, and see where you went wrong or where you could improve on. So that's some of the advice I could leave right now.
Well, Chester, I just want to thank you, and I agree. We need a second leg. A second leg at the Boardroom.
Oh boy. I know it had to happen, before we left. I know it had to happen.
Yeah, I think the time flew. As I said, there's so much more to discuss. And even things you're mentioning right now, I have questions on further discussion and further points to bring on. Just we just mentioned this. So I welcome another leg, a second leg, as they say at the Boardroom.
Yeah, that sounds good with me, man.
Right, and I mean, definitely when this episode is uploaded and shared, and I know that everyone listens to it, especially within your network, they too. Matter of fact, I'm going to put the challenge out to them, out to the listeners and out to the audience. Drop us some comments, drop us some feedback, and let us know what you would want us to discuss with Chester and Unveil Group in part 2 of this episode. We're talking entrepreneurship and sports. Oh, beautiful. I love it. The NBA is heading to the playoffs. Champions League is in full swing in the knockout phases. Let's go, Barca.
Olympics coming up.
CPL around the corner.
Olympics, you have Copa, you have cricket in the West Indies.
Yeah, World Cup, right?
We have plenty of things.
A good time to be a sports fan. So, Chester, all the best to you and your team, Unveil Group. Thank you guys for being innovative and really opening the doors in the sporting industry in a different way as entrepreneurs. Great job. Keep it up. And we'll chat again soon.
Okay, guys. Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you.
All the best. So that's it, you guys. Sports, sports, sports. I love it. Thank you guys so much as usual for tuning in and listening. This is the Big Potato Podcast. Yours truly, Kendell and Stuart. We're signing out. Until next time, be great.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups to scaling up, we cover it all. So don't mess up. Monday nights, don't miss the show with Kendell and Stuart. Your time to grow, listen up. Take notes and learn. The Big Potato Podcast, next gen's turn. It's next